In the past few years, American courts have been weighing in on gun rights in a flurry of cases that have further defined the Second Amendment. In many of these cases, including a landmark Supreme Court decision, the NRA hasn't been the driving force. Instead, the Second Amendment Foundation, a group with a fraction of the NRA's resources, has brought, supported, and won many of the biggest gun rights cases in the past decade.
I think our success is really based on the fact having the right attorneys, and then at the same time picking very carefully good plaintiffs and good cases.
Alan Gottlieb founded the Second Amendment Foundation in 1974.
I think we've really expanded gun rights for Americans. We have more court victories in total than I think all the other groups have suits filed to begin with. We've won 2 cases at the Supreme Court. The Heller case, stating this individual right to keep and bear arms, and knocking out the Washington, D.C. gun ban. And then the McDonald case, while it knocked out the Chicago gun ban, the important thing was that incorporation meant that the Second Amendment individual right theory now applies to all 50 states.
But while they expanded and defined the Second Amendment in ways Gottlieb's group advocates, these cases weren't complete victories for gun rights.
What the court also did in that decision is lay out where gun violence prevention laws are allowed.
Josh Horwitz is executive director of the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, a national gun control organization based in Washington, D.C.
Background checks and dealer regulations and things like reporting lost and stolen guns are now completely constitutional.
Horwitz says that while many cases are nominally victories for the Second Amendment Foundation, the cause of gun rights may have been better off if the courts had never decided the legal questions it raised.
They couldn't claim that every background check law violated the Second Amendment. The National Rifle Association actually asked the attorneys in the Heller case not to go forward. For years, able to just shout Second Amendment at almost any gun violence prevention proposal, but now the court has specifically said that there are areas that are totally fine to legislate in. They've only won a few of these cases. They're losing the vast majority of these decisions.
But Gottlieb plans to continue his push, even though the Supreme Court recently has refused to decide conflicting gun cases.
I think the Supreme Court is definitely looking for one of those cases, and that they're looking for one that, quite frankly, makes more sense for them, and I think that's why they didn't take them so far.
Gottlieb's hope of seeing gun carry laws brought to the Supreme Court comes from a seeming split in the lower courts. The Seventh Circuit Court ruled that a state cannot prohibit the concealed carry of firearms, while the Tenth Circuit decided that the Second Amendment conveys no right at all to carry a concealed and loaded firearm in public. If the Supreme Court does decide to rule on one of these cases, expect Gottlieb and his attorneys to be at the forefront of the fight to expand the right to carry loaded handguns. In Washington, this is Greg Presto for the Lawyers.com channel.